Congresswoman, thank you very much for your time and being with us today.
I'm delighted to be with you.
Congresswoman, first time we met personally, it was 2003 in California when ANCA was honoring several people, and you were one of them. Mm-hmm. What changed during this time in your life?
What's changed in my life? Yeah. Well, my children have grown, even older. I tease them and say that it's now official. They're both older than their mother. Since that time, both my mother and father have passed, so that is those are real markers in life. When you lose your parents, you have a sense that nothing stands between you and your own mortality. Yeah. When you have your parents, no matter what their age, no matter what my age, you still have them. You still have mom and dad. So, but my family, thank God, is fine. I think that there are many big changes in our country. Mm-hmm. We still have not succeeded in the Congress with passing the resolution that acknowledges that there actually was an Armenian genocide. So that's work that is still unfinished. It's in the unfinished column. I won't rest until our country does recognize that, because we know in terms of history that when something is not acknowledged and something is not recorded, it means it simply didn't exist. And that's not acceptable. I think our country is strong enough to withstand what is said to be this enormous opposition, which I think is made out to be something that it really isn't.
Congresswoman, if you succeed, or this work you have been doing for many years, it's kind of contribution to your parents, Assyrian and Armenian, right? Mm-hmm. How do you feel it?
Well, on the for religious minorities in the Middle East, the story is a very sad one, because since that time, since that year that you mentioned, the United States invaded Iraq. There are so many that were driven out of Iraq. They fled to Syria. Mm-hmm. These are all persecutions, just as the Armenians were persecuted, still are in that part of the world because of their faith. Right. They're very easy to pick on because they're a minority. Mm-hmm. They're not of the majority. And so history has repeated itself. And so the work that I've undertaken in the Congress was to establish a religious minorities caucus. The Armenian community has embraced the work of that caucus, which is so magnificent that they would be front and center in this effort to not only pass legislation in the Congress, recognizing that a genocide has taken place against these religious minorities in that part of the world, but also that there be documentation. So it really, in many ways, is a track that is parallel to what the Armenian American effort has been to do this, because they really are one and the same.
Right. Donald Trump didn't say anything about the Armenian genocide before his election and during his presidency, but on April 24th he made a statement, and many people assumed that he wouldn't do so.
Well, he is full of surprises.
Yeah.
He is full of surprises. Now, some may be surprised to hear me say this. I think, given the experience we've had with who has become president, what they have said as candidates, and then what they do when they become president, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, that it may be better that he didn't say anything before and then disappoint us once he gets in. So I'm just a little hopeful that the Armenian American caucus in the Congress can make inroads with the administration and hopefully, very hopefully, bring them to a place where we know our government should be.
Congresswoman, what do you think, whose is the biggest role here? White House, State Department, Congress, Armenian diaspora, lobbies?
Who is the most important in this?
For bringing this issue?
I think it's all. I think it's all of the above.
Yeah. What about the Armenian Republic?
I think it's all of the above. I think that certainly the Armenian American community being organized is essential, because if a member of Congress doesn't hear from constituents, then they say, well, that's not an issue in my district. But it is an essential, just as it is on any other issue. On any other issue. And the Armenian American community has done this. They have organized, I believe, very well in congressional districts all over the country, with new members that are elected. And there was a member that was telling me early this morning, that he had attended something in his district, and he felt very proud of himself. And I said, I don't remember his last name actually, but he's a new member, and he was so proud, and he was moved by the commemorative ceremony, and I said, the Armenian community will always remember. They will have a continuing heart filled with gratitude that you were there, and that will. And he was so pleased when I said that. But it is the case. So I think the community has organized very well. But we see with the State Department, whether it's a Democratic or a Republican administration, most frankly, their position seems to be, now is not the time. I don't know when the right time is for the State Department. And they have played footsie. Of course, Turkey is an important geopolitical, in terms of geopolitics, they have an importance, and we have our own self-interest relative to bases there. But to think that that the threats that our relationship with Turkey would simply blow up by recognizing the genocide, I think really is nonsensical. I really do. I think that this thing has been allowed to grow and to be taken so seriously. There's all of that there talk. I don't fall for it. I really don't. I think that the relationship, listen, the relationship is not so easy now, given what Erdogan is doing. Yeah, right. And in this most recent election, for him to have consolidated the kind of power that he has, journalists and so many being thrown into prison, it's not a pretty picture at all.
Right. If one day a president of the United States pronounces the word combination Armenian genocide, will it mean officially recognizing the genocide, or something else must be done?
Well, I think that what would happen is if an administration, let me put it this way, when a president's administration acknowledges this, that will have a salutary effect on the Congress. They'll have very little to stand on, because that would be the American position. Yeah. That's why it's so essential. It would be the American position once a president and his administration or her administration acknowledge it.
Have you watched the film, The Promise?
Not yet. But I'm hoping this weekend when I go home that I'll be able to get to the movies. Okay. I wasn't able to go to the screening here. Yeah. There were several events that took place. There was a reporter that had just seen it and talked to me about it yesterday, and he was quite moved by it. And I know that Congressman Crowley is very proud that in his district in New York, that's where I think the producer of the film comes from. So he had some bragging rights about it, yes.
he deserves it.
Yes,
for sure.
certainly.
What can you say about the U.S.-Armenia relations?
Well, I think, I think that the caucus in the House has done some very important work because there is a consistency to our positions relative to aid, relative to Nagorno-Karabakh, to the relationship with the government, parliamentary exchanges, broadening and deepening the relationships with our Armenian counterparts. That's all very, very important. It's very important. And we keep adding to our ranks of membership. And there was a new member from California, and he wanted to be sure he told me, because he knew of my nationality, that he had an Armenian American community in his congressional district and that he had met with them. I said, well, bravo. I said, he said, well, I've heard about the caucus and I think I need to know more about it. I said, you don't need to know anything more about it than what you already know. Consider yourself a member. I'm signing you up right now. So, so we have new recruits into the caucus, and that helps to solidify and broaden the base of support for all of these issues. And one of them, I think, that we need to pursue with the appropriators in Congress. Armenia is taking in many Syrian refugees.
Yes.
Welcome them into their country. God bless the Armenians for doing that. And I think
I think Armenia is the second.
Yes, yes. And I think that that we should be assisting Armenia with those efforts. And then the people will never forget it, that it would be Armenia and America that stood by them when they had nothing. That moves on from one generation to the next in terms of the stories.
And it is so sad that 100 years ago, Syria helped Armenians to settle down there. Now Armenia is helping them.
Yes.
But
the reason that the Armenians are helping the Syrians is exactly what I just mentioned. They remembered. They remembered. That remains in the hearts and the souls and the memories, and they pass that on from one generation to another. Who was there for them in their darkest hour? And I think that we should be assisting with that. I think the American people should be assisting with that, and the caucus is going to pursue that.
I know you are short of time. Just one question more about Nagorno-Karabakh. What can you say? What is being done to protect this part of the world better? You remember exactly a year ago, there was a 4-day war. So what is being done?
Well,
what should be done more?
I think that number one, the American voice in this debate, in this ongoing struggle over NK, needs to, number one, diffuse so that there is not, violence and the acts of war, and to also be at the table as an unbiased arbiter, the United States, with the two sides. That's very, very important in my view.
Do you have any plans to visit Armenia or Nagorno-Karabakh?
Well, I think that I was so proud and grateful to be part of the presidential delegation to the 100th commemoration in Yerevan, and that it was in many ways a life-changing experience to actually be there. And now we spent more time flying there and coming back than we were on the ground. But I will take the memory of that commemoration with me for the rest of the days of my life. I mean, it was profoundly impactful. And there is a plan for a delegation, a congressional delegation, to travel to Armenia, I believe in September. I just found out about it yesterday.
You'll be in the delegation?
I hope I am. I hope there isn't anything already scheduled in my district that would keep me from going. So I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you very much for the interview, Congresswoman. Would you like to add anything?
Well, I would just like to say to you and to everyone that is listening in that part of the fabric that can really never be cut away from the idea of America is that we have come to this nation to give and to do from all over the world. And in the Armenian American community, just as other communities have added integrity, strength, resourcefulness, faith-filled families, hard-working families have contributed to the well-being of this nation and made her great for a long time. So I think that if we honor those values, that we can keep our country strong so that we bring the best of those values to the entire world. And the United States of America is an essential nation. It's an essential nation. People look up to us, they look to us on a whole panoply of issues. And I'm very proud of who and what I come from.
Yeah.
And I think
Everybody
that
loves you in Armenia, do you know that?
yes.
Yeah,
Well, I
everybody
felt
knows you.
that when I was there. I
Yeah,
felt
you
that
saw that.
yes. They opened me. They welcomed me with open arms. It was. I felt like I felt as if
It's
I was.
such a pride to have you
I
here,
was
yeah.
surrounded by my family. So, what I do here is to, with all of my might, is to advance all of these values.
Yep.
How I was raised, what our faith calls us to do, what is good, what is right, and move that forward. So
I wish you
it's
success.
well, God willing, we will. But you know, some things take a very long time, and it is frustrating. But I'm reminded and humbled by this every day that this is not just a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And when you have a passion that drives you, no one is going to put out that fire. So no one's ever going to put out that fire inside of me. And I will use that to advance all of the good things that we need to advance relative not only to the people of our own community, but for the benefit of our nation and the benefit and the peacefulness of our world.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much for
Thank
this
you.
very important interview.
It's an honor.
Thanks.
Thank you.